on there. That's just a terrible thing to do. Oh, this is a nightmare, isn't it? But anyway, they're beautiful pellets. Look at them. They're lovely. Lovely and red. Oh, look at them fingers. That's a nightmare, isn't it? Should have done that one last, shouldn't I? But yeah, get some red dye into your pellets. Don't do it at home. Don't do it on a textured work surface like this because it's a nightmare to get it out. Shouldn't have done that. Pellets, my favourite bait. You can catch all kinds of fish on them. They're absolutely fantastic. You can use them in loads of different ways too. And there's loads of different little tricks and little tips that I can give you to help you get more from this brilliant bait. They come in all shapes, sizes, colours, flavours, textures, breakdown rates, oil rates. There's just loads on the market for us to get a look at. Now I'm going to give you some great tips hopefully in this video, little bits that you can take away and put into your own fishing, little bait hacks if you like, that we're going to use to help you with your pellet fishing. So without further ado, let's crack on with tip number one. Now tip number one is all about getting the pellets absolutely bang on for the method feeder. Pellet feeder, banjo feeder, this is a great starting point. And it all revolves around mixing two different pellets together. As we know, there's screttins and there's coppins, and they have different sort of characteristics, which makes one better than the other for certain situations. Now, screttins are probably my favourite 2mm. They're the one that I think the fish like the best, but coppins are very useful too. They don't have much smell to them. They're quite like a bland pellet, to be honest, but they are quite sticky, which helps you when it comes to the method feeder. Now, I've done loads of fishing this winter at Boddington Reservoir, as you've seen on my various live matches that I've done. And I've actually learned quite a lot about this, about blending the two together and getting that consistency right, and actually using the two pellets is a great way of doing it. You can buy them, of course. You can buy Ringer's Method Micros. They're in like a blend of the two, or there might even be 3 pellets in there. I don't know what the third one is, but again, essentially it's this idea. It's mixing the two together. But if you want to take the guesswork out of it, just buy a bag of those Ringer's Method Micros and you'll be fine. But if, like me, using pellets all the time, I like to buy them in bulk. These are 5 kilo bags. I like to buy them in bulk and then put them together in like little packets, little like 2-pint bags that I know I've got loads there for a session. So that's what I like to do. Now for the different feeder types, you're going to want a slightly different blend. Now, if you're fishing at longer range with a method feeder, important I said method feeder, where you need a bit more binding, then I actually go 2/3 coppins to 1/3 screttins, and I add a little bit on there as well. That gives me that binding potential. So even if I'm whacking the feeder out 80, 90 metres like I was doing at Boddington, I know that them pellets are getting to the bottom intact on that feeder. However, if I'm using more of a banjo or a hybrid style feeder, I don't need that as much bind on there. I need them to actually break down quite quickly, and I'll go for 50-50, maybe even 40-60 in favour of the screttins, like the 60% screttins, and I just feel like that blend works a little bit better. So if you're, like I say, if you're using the method, put more coppins in. If you're using more open style feeders where you don't need as much protection, even a pellet feeder, in fact, a pellet feeder, I might just go for straight screttins actually and not even put any coppins in. But if I am going for the hybrid style, then a 50-50 or a 60-40 in favour of the screttins will be my choice. And that brings me nicely onto point 2, which is all about pellet preparation. And how can I not mention my Tupperware tubs? Mick Viles put me on. In fact, it wasn't Mick Viles. I'm giving him credit for something that it wasn't him that showed me, but it was him that refreshed it in my memory. Andy Geldart showed me this at Whiteacres 15 years ago, maybe even longer, when we used to go to Whiteacres all the time. And he showed me this. He used to we used to get Whiteacres bait tubs because it used to be in a measure. And to be honest, it was all about getting around the rules, because when you do your pellets in this way, they expand. So you used to have a strict 8-pint limit at Whiteacres, and if you got a pint box, one of their pint measures, and filled it up with micros, God, you'd have loads of bait. So we started doing it like that, but it turned out it was the perfect way. And my micro pellet preparation is always done now in one of these Tupperware tubs. And Mick started doing it a few years ago when we started filming together. And it just reminded me how good a method it was. It takes all the guesswork out of it. And all you need is a series of clip lock tubs. Now, word of warning, get yourself some smallish ones. They look smaller than you think you're going to need. I'd love to know what size this actually is, but it's not even the size of a pint bait tub. And trust me, that is more than enough for a day's fishing, whether you're using the method, whether you're using it on the pole. That will expand. When you take that lid off, the next day, that will just be like millions of pellets. So get yourself some smaller tubs, because especially in the winter when you only need a few pellets, a nice small Tupperware tub will give you loads of pellets for the day. So All you need to do, one thing that I think is really important, is filling the pellets right up to the lip of the Tupperware tub, and then filling it exactly level with water. That is the best way to do it. You can put your flavours in there at that point in the liquid. What I like to do, I'll get a separate jar with some water in it. I'll put a bit, because at Boddington I do believe flavours make a difference. I'll put a little bit of flavour in there, shake it around, pop it in there, and it'll work. And as long as it's covered and there's no gaps, it's important not to have gaps because you're trying to restrict the pellets. You don't want them getting too big because they'll lose the binding potential when they do that. If you want them to go around a feeder, they've got to be restricted, and I think that's the beauty of this. So yeah, that's a simple way of preparing your pellets. I always do it like that, and it's just a foolproof way of doing it. Now, tip 3 comes from way back in the archive. It's one that I've started using again, and it's one that actually works fantastic. And it actually come from, I can't take credit for this, this is John Arthur's tip from a DVD did pellet fishing with Dave Arrell. Christ, getting on for 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I remember, because there was no YouTube content then, every little DVD that came out, I used to buy them. And I remember that one, it was at Tunnel Barn, and John was using sloppy 4mm pellets that he'd obviously oversaturated, and it's something that works brilliant. You get that little bit of cloud coming off it, you get a lovely little ball of stodge that you can pot in, nice and accurate, but you also get some 4mm in there as well. So you get this lovely sort of sloppy, stodgy feed that gives you the best of both worlds. You've got some nice bits, small bits that come off there, but you've got plenty of chunky pellets in there as well. And trust me, feeding that is a brilliant way to fish for skimmers, F1s, carp, definitely underused, and it's a great way of doing it. Especially now, everyone's feeding like tight little piles of bait on down the margins. Stuff like that can be a real winner because it's so heavy. You can feed a little stodgy ball like that, it goes straight to the bottom, and you can put a bait over the top of it. You could even use that as paste, but whisper that. Now to do it, it's really simple. These little like Chinese takeaway tubs are brilliant, but I ain't got any more of them. So what I'm gonna have to use is my daughter's little tub, so don't tell the missus. All you need is 4mm. Screttings are better for this. Obviously, if you can't use screttings or fishery pellets or coppens, you can do it with coppens, but it isn't as good, but you can do it. But you definitely want to be doing this the night before. Boil a kettle, boiling water is key here, and literally, I'm just gonna absolutely soak them with boiling water. So that, I'm not just going to level fill them, I'm going to oversaturate them because, like I say, I want lots of stodge in there, but I also want whole pellets in there as well. And doing it with the boiling water is infinitely better than doing it with cold water. They smell different when you use boiling water, and I think it just releases something in the pellet. I don't know what it is, but boiling water is a great like thing to bear in mind whenever you're doing pellet prep, especially when you want it to go stodgy. So if you work that in your fingers, you could get a lovely paste in there as well. So it's a good tip when it comes to making paste as well. If I've spoke about melted pellets before on old paste videos, it's a great paste. If you don't want to faff around with ground baits on grinding stuff up yourself, boiling water on some scratting pellets, leave it, it will make a great paste too. Just get your fingers in there and rough it up. But yeah, mushy 4mm, a great feed, especially now the F1s are getting a bit bigger. That is a great little tip, that is. Moving swiftly on, and I think it's pellet tip number 4. Remember trout pellets? Trout pellets were great, weren't they? Right in our early sort of pellet fishing development, I seem to use trout pellets all the time, and they were great, weren't they? Really oily, stinky, just brilliant, nice and dark. Fish loved them. And then trout pellets just disappeared, and most fisheries like don't allow you to use high oil feed pellets, so it all became a bit of a thing of the past, and instead we've got stuff that resembles sugar puffs now, which are great. But yeah, actual trout pellets, hard to find, but they have started creeping back. And I was going through the Blake's website a few weeks ago, and I saw these beauties, Trout Elite pellets. Now they're not like trout pellets of old. They're not, I just don't think they're even available anymore. They're probably, let's be fair, they're for growing trout in pens, and maybe them old ones just weren't cutting it anymore. So they've come up with this new concoction, Trout Pellet Elite, which actually, now I've actually got my hands on them and had a look at them, they're all right. They're not trout pellets of yore, but they're quite good. And I love using trout pellets for paste, particularly for pea paste. They used to be fantastic. They're a little bit oilier than the scretting or a coppin, and a lot more oily than a dreaded coppin. I hate coppins, by the way. So that you get this oil which slows the breakdown. So when you're fishing that pea paste, and you're fishing, for anyone who doesn't know, it's tiny bits of paste on a size 16 hook, swung into position, and you get little bites on it. Catches brilliant for F1s, little carp, things like that. And trout pellets, are literally the best pellet you can use for it, for making that pea paste. And I've made some earlier just to check that these are legit, and they are. They smell great. In fact, they stink, which is a massive advantage. When you've got such a tiny piece of pea paste on, trust me, having a nice smelly paste on there makes a big difference. And having some trout pellets, again, is a lovely way of doing it. And like I say, that's just a great way of making paste. So you could grind them up. Again, you could grind them up in a coffee grinder or a blender or something like that. Be warned, blenders don't last long when you start doing things like that. You could even use one of them OMC bait mates. If you're feeling flush, go get yourself one of them. They look great for this, to be fair, because you don't need loads. But trusty kettle is my favoured way, and I will melt them down again. I've covered them in boiling water about 20 minutes ago, probably, before I started filming this, and I've just left them, and they are still hard, but give them another 20 minutes. Pellet prep is best done the day before. Give them another 20 minutes and they'll be easy to break down, and you'll end up with, let me get rid of this kettle before I burn myself. You end up with, I mean, that looks just great, doesn't it? It looks like, I won't say what it looks like. It looks like something, but that is just a beautiful paste, and it'll just go around a hook. The more you need it, the better this will get. But it's just a beautiful little version of pea paste, that is. It stinks. It's nice and dark. Honestly, it stinks. It doesn't smell like how I remember trout pellets smelling like, but the difference between that and a boring skretting or a dreaded coppin is vast, and fish will definitely prefer that. So great to see some trout pellets available again. You can't really use them for feed anywhere, but you can use them as a paste. So great to see some trout pellets back, and they do come in handy for making pea paste. One thing about doing videos is it's really important to be professional, which is why I've got the correct bowls for doing it in, and I think it's tip number 5, but anyway. Putting 4 mils on the feeder, on the method, is something that has definitely taken the match fishing world by storm. It's nothing new. I think probably people were putting 4 mils on a big coconut method years ago, especially with the old trout pellets that we mentioned earlier. You used to scald them, put them around one of those big M-Stat style and bosh it out there and catch loads of fish. And it got forgotten. We went on to fine ground baits, then we went on to 2 mils, and I'd say 2 mils are probably the thing that we all put on the most. But in recent years, definitely Stu Fotheringham, there's a few other good anglers who fish up at Woodlands Thirsk, Adam Richards, people like that. Jack and Luke Hawksworth, people like that, started putting 4 mils around the method a number of years ago, and it has been brilliant, especially for proper carp. I'm talking, if you're fishing a venue with £5 plus fish in it, 4 mils is the way to go. The best thing about it is they're a bit more small fish proof. Now, on a lot of those venues, especially Woodlands at Thirsk, and I know a number of venues like this, Barston springs immediately to mind, you've got a lot of little skimmers in there, and when you chuck micros out or fine ground bait, you can never be sure there's much bait around your feeder anymore. You know, it's just getting whittled away by those pesky skimmers. So being able to put 4 mils on is a big edge. Now, getting them dead right is tricky. Coppins are actually, even though I don't like them, they are probably the preferred choice for this. But they take some getting right. Again, the kettle is your friend for that. The way I've done it in the past is completely covered them in boiling water. Obviously, the coppins don't break down anywhere near as fast as skrettings. Cover them in boiling water and leave them for like a timed 1 minute 30. Drain the water off completely, allow them to stand and put them in the fridge. The next day they'll have a little bit of a skin on there, but still be firm in the middle, and they'll go on a method feeder, especially if you get a wet hand and revitalise them quickly, they'll go on a feeder again. It's a total faff, and it's a major headache getting them right, trust me, and it's something you just can't do. You can't just turn up on the bank and do it. It has to be done the day before. It's a total faff. Means that you've got to remember to buy fishery pellets when you're there in advance for your next session. It's a total faff. If you do want to try 4 mils, and again, this is no good to you whatsoever if fishery pellets are annoying actually, aren't they, when you think about it. But if you go somewhere that you can use whatever you want, having these beauties, these sticky method pellets, are just brilliant. And I don't want this to turn into an ad, but I just want to show you what's available in the tackle shop, because I don't have a bait sponsor. I'm just showing you what's available, and I have been so impressed with these because it makes it so easy. I've literally got them in my daughter's bowl again, and I just covered them in water, and that was it. I didn't like drown them, I didn't oversaturate them or anything like that. I just covered them in water and I left them. I walked away, carried on doing what I was doing, and I've come back and I wish I had a bigger bowl. It would be so much easier if I had a bigger bowl. But look at that. You can get them on a method feeder, and literally all I've done is just got them wet basically. They've taken on that water, and they'll go on a method feeder and break down lovely. I'm really impressed with them, how simple it makes things. Now, I've always been a bit of a pellets like this, you know, like anything that sort of says sticky method on it, I always think a bit of a gimmick, like just put them on your feeder like normal pellets. But how can you argue with that? That just makes things so much easier. And I know a lot of you guys just want ease of use when you're fishing, and I think that's brilliant. That's great. And yeah, fair play to Sono on that one. That's a really good product, that is. And the good thing is, because whatever they've put on them to make them sticky means you don't have to soak them too much. Remember, we're trying to target bigger fish and prevent those smaller fish from clearing your feeder out. So the fact that these pellets are still in fact they're still hard, means that you're almost putting hard pellets into the swim, which I think is a big advantage. And it just takes all the guesswork out of prep. So sticky method pellets, big thumbs up from me. They're brilliant. They're a very user-friendly product. I'm just going to put them down here. Tip number 5.5, because it's just a continuation of that. I just wanted to say, obviously we mentioned about method feed pellets earlier. If you do want to use 2 mils, there's also a sticky method pellet available in 2 mils. And I must say, on the 4 mil front as well, there's loads of different flavours. You know what Sonu's like, they cover every eventuality, there's every flavour you can imagine. If you're interested in flavours and stuff like that, there's the world's your oyster when it comes to the Sonu range. And I must admit, these 2 mils are just like the advantage of the 4 mils, where it just takes the guesswork out of it. The same can be said for these. Now, these are 2 mil sticky pellets, and I've literally just got them wet, just didn't even cover them in water. I just put like a splash of water in there, and I've just left them. And again, they've come out perfect for the method, absolutely spot on. What I like about them is they haven't got like a horrible like stickiness to them. Like some of them like sticky method type pellets, I always think are a bit too sticky, if that makes ridiculous. They like go on like glue, don't they? And you reel it in and your pellets are still on. You're not getting that with this. This is just a nice amount. Follow the instructions on the packet, you can't go far wrong. And that's just a tip 5.5, because if you are struggling with your pellets, getting them right for the feeder, give them a try. They're a brilliant way to do it. Alternatively, if you buy those Fuka ones that are ready done, you can buy them now from loads of different tackle shops in the little packets. I've spoke about them before. People think they're a gimmick, people think they're expensive, but I know a lot of you aren't match anglers, and those pellets make your life really easy. Tip number 6, and it is one of those tips I've given away before, and it's all about these Prima Trax pellets. Now, I spoke about these in a video. I did like a 20-minute video using them for catching skimmers. I was so impressed with them. They are the best 4 mil pellet you can get for actually putting on the hook, as in feed pellets. I'm not talking about expanders here. I'm talking about we're using a feed pellet that you can get on the hook. And these Prima Trax pellets, honestly, they're so good. And I know loads of you went and bought them off the back of my review, and most of you had a good time with them. And I know in my local tackle shop in Chiltern Baits, they've sold loads of them as well. And they are a genuinely good product. And I've noticed that they've just done a 6 mil as well. So if you do like them, the 6 mil is now available as well, which is great news. They also do a micro if you're interested in that. They're a very good quality pellet. I think that is one thing that allows them to keep the shape. You know, like on a skretting, if you soak them for too long, they eventually break down into like a mushy dust, a bit like those mushy pellets we showed you earlier. These don't do that, which is a good thing. Obviously, it means that they'll stay nice and round and solid for the hook. Now, all I do to soak them for the hook and feed is how I do my Tupperware. Just cover them in water in the Tupperware, leave them overnight in the fridge preferably, or somewhere nice and cool, but preferably in the fridge. Stick them in there overnight, and I found they go perfect. Yes, you get the odd one. I think people, when I did the video last time, were saying, oh, mine are crumbling. You will still get ones that crumble, but if you pick up a good like palmful of them, you're going to get some perfect hookers in there that go on perfectly. Not everyone's going to be perfect like an expander, but I have found that, I mean, look at them. They are absolutely perfect. They're going to go on a 4 mil, going to go on a 16 hook, absolutely perfect. And if you are skimmer fishing, F1 fishing, I think that having them on the hook is a big edge rather than an expander, because you've got a bit of weight in your rig and it shows at the bite better. So brilliant product that is, Prima Trax pellets. I love them, and I know loads of you have generally had a good experience with them. A few of you said they were cracking a bit, but if you prepare them, just cover them in water and put them in the fridge, you can't go far wrong. And yes, they're not going to be like an expander where every single one is absolutely perfect to go on. But if you, like when you're maggot fishing, get a few out there, you'll soon find the ones that look perfect to go on. So it's not a problem, and it's a big, big advantage having them on the hook when it comes to that kind of fishing. Just having a bit of a clean up because I've made a mess, and the missus is going to be really happy when she gets home and she can smell all this lovely pellets melting down with boiling water because they stink. Drilled pellets are one of those products that I've never really paid much attention to. You know, you've got loads of different like Robin Red versions and God knows what else. You go in a tackle shop, in fact I've got some Robin Red ones here. Robin Red ones. You go in a tackle shop and there's loads of different like pre-drilled versions of pellets out there. I've never really paid much attention to them. I know barbel anglers and stuff like that love them. However, I was faffing the other day, and I'm going fishing in a few weeks' time to Meadowlands, and I wanted a nice way of presenting double pellet. Now, I remember doing it where you tie two bands together. I did a video on it. It's a great way to do it. You can even do a lasso with a band in the lasso. Oh, but I was like, every now and again you catch one and the second band pops off and all that. It was just doing me head in a little bit. So I found some drill pellets that I like the look of, these krill ones, which are nice sort of deep red colour. And I got myself one of these lovely fine ringer's needles. And basically what I've done, I've made a hair rig with a slightly longer hair with a band just in a loop. Really simple stuff. And this is nothing nothing revolutionary. Why has that fell off? Anyway. But it just, I was like, oh, that's a brilliant way of doing it. That's less hassle than what I was doing before. So all I've got is a fine needle, pull that band nice and tight. That first drilled pellet goes on your hair like so, nice and simple. And then the second one, we just pop in the band like so. And that goes on there and you've got a perfectly presented double pellet. Nice long hair so that when we're fishing for those bigger fish, they're 8mm pellets, but you could do it with 6s. In fact, you can't do it with 6s because I don't think 6mm pre-drilled are available, but there's definitely 11mm and probably bigger as well if you're into that. So yeah, I just thought that was a lovely way of presenting double pellet. Much less hassle than the way I was doing it before. And I'm sure if you just got your normal 8mm coppins and screttings and stuff, you could drill them as well with a little bait drill. So yeah, just something really simple that was, and I thought, well, that's a nice little tip actually for the old pre-drilled pellets, because I never really knew what to do with them, got to be honest. Okay, in this day and age, I definitely use hard pellets, probably more than I should do. There's definitely a place for expanders still, and it's one of those baits that it's just one of those that will always get you a bite. If you put an expander on, fish it with some micros or some softened 4s, you're going to get bites, whether it's skimmers, small carp, F1s. But I also use them for big carp, and I've done it quite a lot in recent years, fishing down the margins with 2 big expanders on, and it's worked really well. So I just wanted to say how good expanders were again. This is tip 8, by the way. Or is it 7? I've lost track. Anyway, it's a tip. And it's all about colouring your expanders, and I know it's something I've spoke about before, but I think it's really important, and it's something that's caught me loads of fish, particularly in the edge or fishing up against the mud line. Anywhere where the fish are colouring up the water, I think a standout hook bait is massive. I do it with my paste fishing, and I think with expanders it's the same. I just think a normal plain Jane expander gets lost. And I just wanted to talk about pellet prep in general, because I think people have even... It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Because all I used to fish with was with expanders, but with the advent of pro expanders from Sonu, where you just cover them in water and put them in the fridge, they're brilliant, but I just don't like the actual pellet. They're great, very user-friendly, very, very great, easy way to fish with expanders. I just don't like the pellet itself. I don't like the dark colour. I've always liked lighter coloured pellets. I just think they take colour better. I just think the fish prefer them. But if you want just a simple go-to pellet, use them because they're great. But if you just want to do them yourself, get yourself a pellet pump. The Ringer's one is the best, in my opinion. Preston do one that's like a little skinny one, looks like a little syringe. Very good. I know it's like one of them that Andy Finley came up with, and his adventures are normally fantastic. The only thing I used to find it a faff, and when I used to do it at home, I'd have water squirting out on my ceiling and all sorts. Just not for me. But these are good. Really good, and I've had this ever since they first come out, which just shows how tough they are. They're brilliant. And then you want some good expanders. There's loads on the market. Bait Tech do a good one. Dynamite do a good one. I was out with Sam Collett the other week and he had a batch of 4mm expanders that look fantastic. I think theirs are called Pro expanders as well, which is a bit confusing. But yeah, they've got some excellent ones at the moment. But without a doubt, I think anyone who's in the know when it comes to expander fishing are using the Blake's ones. And I know for a fact that they actually go through them and grade them. And any that they don't think meet the criteria get chucked in the blender for the like the crushed expander ground baits and stuff. But all the ones that are like perfectly uniform get bagged up. Now they're great value. And in fact, my main gripe with expanders is that you get too many in a bag, because like I've had that bag now and it cost me £4 and I've had it about 3 years probably. And I'm not even, there's enough in there for another 2 years. I think you'd end up getting them damp, or them little dreaded weevils will get in before you'd ever use a bag like that. So Blake's, do little bags for £2. I think that would be much better. But it might just be that's the size of bags they've got. It's just too many. Unless you're Christian Jones and you're fishing every sort of 3 or 4 times a week, you're just never going to get through a bag of expanders like that before they get spoiled. That's a little moan, that is. But anyway, they're excellent. What I like about them, and it's the same with 6s, they're a lovely golden colour. And you don't need me to tell you how important that is. From all the old times of expander pellet fishing, that was the correct one. And they're a lovely pellet, them. Look at them, perfect. Just great. To prepare them in a pump, I don't want to teach you how to suck eggs, but there will be newcomers to pellet fishing watching this who have never done it before. So all you need to do is put just a few. You barely need any. Just literally fill the neck up with a few expanders, and it can be 4s or 6s. Totally fill it with water through this. Obviously put the cap back on. Fill that full of water so it's brimming with water. Give it 2 or 3 pumps. It's important not to go mad because it does break down the pellet and make them too soft. And then take off the water, drain it off, pop them in a bag and just tie it off like that. Tie it off and you'll get perfect expanders. Every single time. Pop them in the fridge is even better. And you'll notice these are red. Now I was going to show you the red dye. I actually like the Fuka red dye. That's the best one I've found. It's very expensive, that's the only downside, but it is the best one I've found. Whether you believe in the flavour of this power of sensate or whatever, I don't, but I do like the colour works really well. It's a very vibrant red, which is hard to find now. A lot of the red dyes now have got like a beetroot colour to them, which, don't get me wrong, it takes to the pellets lovely, but you get like the robin red colour now that's not red like it used to be. It's like a purpley colour. And the red dye I've actually got today it's that beetroot colour, which I'm not that keen on, to be honest with you. But if you want, if you do want to colour your expanders, soak them like I've just told you, drain off the water, pop them in a corner of a little bag like that, and then just drizzle some colour over the top, and it'll take straight away. Oh my God, that's a mistake. That is a mistake. But anyway, I'm going to do this for the good of your fishing, not the good of my marriage, because that is a terrible idea. But look at that on there. That's just a terrible thing to do. Oh, this is a nightmare, isn't it? But anyway, they're beautiful pellets. Look at them. They're lovely. Lovely and red. Oh, look at them fingers. That's a nightmare, isn't it? Should have done that one last, shouldn't I? But yeah, get some red dye into your pellets. Don't do it at home. Don't do it on a textured work surface like this, because it's a nightmare to get it out. Shouldn't have done that. Large amounts of regret when it comes to this. Look at the state of this. This is not good. Not good for my marriage, this. Good for you, because you get to see me doing the red pellets and have a good laugh. But that's not good. How am I going to get that out of there? Oh, that's worked. So if you do have a textured work surface like this, and you do get red dye in it, get yourself a little scrubber. Now you may be wondering where I've been actually for the past few weeks. Ever since, oh look at this. Ever since I stopped doing those Boddington live match, why is everything red? Ever since I did stop doing them Boddington live matches, I've been really quiet, and there's been a good reason for that. Firstly, I went on the rivers and I was fishing for the old Chub. Very good, I had a great end of season. I was going to film it, but then I didn't, and I don't feel guilty about it, if I'm honest. I had a great time. But I did film with Fish Flicks, and they covered and came out and did a brilliant Chub video actually. Really nice to see the filming from a different angle, because when we're match fishing filming, it's often crash bang wallop. Everything's done in a couple of hours. Simulating what we're doing in a match situation, short time span. But on that day, that bit of filming, it was like a couple of days filming, which is so unusual for like a 20-minute film to do a couple of days filming. But the result was fantastic, and we caught loads of fish on the River Nene. And it was a good film, and it got. I actually enjoyed watching it myself, and I don't generally like watching myself. But yeah, so that's where I've been. And then I've got to be honest, I've been really ill the last few weeks. I wanted to start match fishing again, but I managed to get flu, which I've never had flu before, evidently, because I thought I had, but I haven't, because what I've had the last 2 to 3 weeks, it started 3 weeks ago, just bad, not good. Yeah, really knocked the wind out of my sails, actually. And I've literally not had any energy to do anything, and I don't want to go all, get the violins out or anything, but yeah, it really took the wind out of my sails. And I'm not one that really gets ill, so actually being ill for the first time in my life, yeah, took me back a bit. And even today, I've got this yellow stuff coming out of me, which I've never had before. And yeah, I don't wish it on my worst enemy what I've just had for the last few weeks. Not that I've got any enemies, because I'm not that guy, but yeah, it's been a tough few weeks, let me tell you, because my wife got it, my kids got it, everyone got it, and it was, yeah, we were all at home here, like, struggling, and we couldn't get out. And I've got to be honest, even if I wanted to go, if I was to go fishing tomorrow, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere where I'd had to have a long walk or anything. I wouldn't be able to do it. It's really knocked me. So yeah, I didn't really want to go into that, but I did anyway. So there you go. So that's where I've been. I've been really poorly, and I've been chub fishing. But I promise to be back doing a few more uploads. I'm not going to say I'm going to get straight back into the swing of things, because it is, like I say, I'm taking one day at a time at the minute, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it, after the flu? But yeah, it really, if you've never had proper flu before, yeah, you don't want it. A tip, something, one of the ones that I used to do all the time, and I just don't do it anymore, is dusted pellets, dusted feed pellets. Now, it's a brilliant way to fish, and especially at this time of year when a lot of the fisheries have just put a lot of little F1s in, little stocky F1s, and they love this. They absolutely love it. And I remember doing it back in, I used to fish Lindholm a lot back in the day, and it was pretty much when the fishery was on its up. You know, Willow, Bonsai had just opened, then they did the Oasis Lake, and every lake was full of these little stockies. So I was fishing for stockies all the time. And one of the things that I just forget about is dusted pellets. And it's just a brilliant way to fish. And it's caught me loads of fish over the years. And I was thinking about it the other day, and why don't I do that anymore? So the best thing to have is something like a ground expander, crushed expander. Loads of companies do it now. Just look for a good one. This one seems great from Bait Tech. It was the only one I've got. And then literally, you don't want it doesn't want to be like 50% ground bait. It wants to be like 20% ground bait. And I've just got some pellets there that have just been soaked up. And I'm just literally dusting them with that ground bait. I've soaked them up previously by doing the tub method that I've shown you ad nauseum now. That's a big word, isn't it? And then what you're looking for is like that. Micros that have just got a light dusting. So when you pot them in, there's little bits coming off. Now, it sounds like a nightmare for like liners and stuff, but for whatever reason, just having that little bit of ground bait on there, that crushed expander, just helps you get more bites. It definitely pulls more fish in. It's something that we used to do all the time. I remember when F1, the original F1, the Sonny Baits F1, when it first came out, you couldn't get it in dark or green or anything like that. It was like a proper light brown colour. And me and Lee was like one of the first to get his hands on it. It'd been a Sonny Baits angler. And me and Lee Kerry were down at Whiteacres, and we were fishing Lindholm all the time. And I just remember it had the most beautiful creamy smell. It doesn't, sadly, doesn't smell the same anymore. I think the pellets have obviously changed over the years, but it used to have this beautiful creamy smell to it. And I remember you could like walk past him fishing and you could smell it, and it was just a brilliant way of fishing. And even thinking about that brings back some great memories. But just doing that with like some crushed expander, something like inoffensive, crushed expander's great. That is a great way, and especially if you're fishing for those little F1s, little stockies, little mirrors and commons, that's a brilliant way to fish that. Is just tap them in like you would micros generally, and that little bit of ground bait just enhances the pulling power. Nothing revolutionary, but again, just a good solid tip that does catch loads more fish. Now, tip number 9 is all about crushed pellets. Now, there's loads of different crushed pellets out there, but the one that everyone seems to like go raving about are obviously like the crushed expander. And for a good reason, it's lovely and fluffy, loads of fish like it. It's just dead neutral in it. It doesn't stink, it's just nice, it goes fluffy. You can pot it in little balls, sprinkle it in loose. Great way to catch fish. But there's more to crushed pellets. I'm just getting rid of that. There's more to crushed pellets than just that. And Blake's actually do some great like options when it comes to crushed pellets. They crush them up in house, and it's nice that you can get your hands on like crushed actual feed pellets, crushed screttings, or crushed, who knows what pellets they are in there, but it's nice that you've got the option. And this coarse carp is a brilliant ground bait. It's like got coarse pellets in there. There's plenty of dust in there as well. It's a lovely sort of variety of bits in there. But for me, I'd never seen this before up until recently. And I just spotted it in the tackle shop. I'm like, I've got to get some of that. That looks fantastic. And what I like about it is you've got all sorts of particles in there. And I just think for an edge ground bait, that could be unbeatable. It's probably I'm going to have to experiment when it comes to mixing it, because it's not expander. So it's not going to like expand crazy like an expander based ground bait does. But that's going to be nice and heavy. It's obviously full of the stuff that they're eating every day because it's feed pellets, but you've got lovely big chunks in there as well. And I just think for an edge ground bait, that could be fantastic. So really looking forward to using that. And I just thought I'd show you that. And we all know how much I love my pace fishing. And I use all sorts, if I'm honest. Fatchers is my like go-to. I'll like sieve off some fatchers and put that wheat gluten in there. Everyone knows about that. It's fantastic. But if I had the right equipment, I'd probably blend my own pellets up, if I'm being totally honest. I'd probably just buy screttings, maybe a few of them Trouties, blend them together in a blender. But I haven't got one actually at the moment, which is stupid. I'm going to actually probably get one of them bait mate things. They're quite expensive, but for all the pace fishing I do, they're probably going to be worthwhile. Probably going to be a good thing to buy, that is. But if you don't want the faff of that, they do fine carp pellets, which is as close to what I'm going to use anyway, so I probably don't even need to do that. And it just shows you that there's other options available. You don't just have to use crushed expander. So look at that lovely fine carp pellets that have been crushed up. Again, nothing revolutionary, but that is good bait, that is. That'll make a brilliant paste. It'll make a good ground bait in its own right. So be careful with the water, because it's not it's not expanders, so it's not gonna like a sponge. That's probably going to be one of the only downsides, but I think that's going to be a really useful ground bait. And if you want to like dust your pellets like we did in the previous tip with this, that's going to work great. It's going to make a nice method ground bait if you want to like put that around a method. But importantly, I think that's going to make a brilliant paste. Tip 10.5 then, and this is the last tip of this video, and it's all about flavourings. I'm one of those guys who skulks around in the dark, pretending we don't exist. I really like flavourings. There, I said it. Hi, I'm Joe, and I like flavourings and additives, and I believe they make a difference. And the more fishing I do, specialist fishing, the more I believe it makes a difference. I mentioned this before on the Mixing Bowl podcast about my chub fishing and my barbel fishing on the river, where I've genuinely seen it make a difference. And I've seen it in match fishing. And the match fishing sample size is funny, isn't it? Because you can't ever repeat it. But I've seen how fish get hooked on certain baits on the river, and I think that definitely there's things you can do. So I like to flavour my bait in some respect, and whether that's my expanders, I'll often put a little something like that, like a nice like a sweetener, just a little tiny bit of that in your mixing water when you're pulling it through the pump. Can be really nice. You get a lovely smell to them. Alternatively, you can use those like glucosey dips. Sonia Bait Booster is a good one because it actually firms up the texture of your pellets. So you're getting not only getting a flavour, but you're getting a nice firm textured pellet as well. So that's good. And then obviously adding flavours to your pellets. Your feed pellets is a big one. And again, that does a number of things. If you go into Boddington, for example, what we spoke about numerous times, having flavour on your pellet, I think does help you. It certainly helps you in your head because you've got some smell out there. And adding it to the water that you then soak your pellets in is the key. So something like, not actually this, but something like one of those, like, again, the bait booster from Sonu, or like liver, I love liver. Marmite's a good one. Marmite's a really good one. Bovril, I spoke about Bovril before. Every time I've used Bovril and Marmite, I've caught loads of fish. So, and yet when I go to Boddington, I end up using like the mainline, what's it called now? Activator, isn't it? The hybrid, no, not hybrid, Essential Cell. I use that. I've used the Blake's Milky Nut Crush Pro, something. That anyway. and it's worked great. Yeah, every time I go out filming with Mick or whoever, and we go out for a day, I always use Marmite and Bovril and catch loads. So I just need to put up the courage and just use that really at Boddington, because it's brilliant. But what I'm saying is get it in that water, then soak your pellets and you'll get lovely flavoured pellets. If you don't want to faff around like that, there is pre-done ones. This has got the F1 flavour on it. There's loads in there. You can, any tackle brand or bait brand, should I say, has got flavoured pellets out there, and they're all great. And I am more inclined to use them now than I ever have been. I've got to be honest. I think that it's got to make a difference, hasn't it? I just wanted to show this. This is tiger nut extract. Now this is unbelievably sweet. And if you are struggling to get your pellets on the method feeder, you can use Horlicks, which I've shown you loads of times before. Horlicks is great, but this is actually brilliant. And I think, I was speaking to the lads at Blake's, and Paul Holland has mentioned this, and I've never seen the video where he's doing it, so I apologise if I misheard him. But he was telling me that Paul Holland often likes to use his tiger nut extract on his micros to help them bind. And having actually played around with it, it's so sticky because it's like the pure extract, it's full of sugar. Honestly, just a drizzle of that on your micros brings them to life. So that's something to bear in mind. A nice little tip, tiger nut extract. I think there's a few different companies do it. But I mean, look at that. It's like, it comes in a glass bottle, for God's sake. That is good stuff, isn't it? Look at that. Sort of thing you used to find on your doorstep, isn't it? When the old milkman used to bring the milkshakes around. But that's going to be good stuff. So yeah, try that on your pellets, and probably just putting it in anyway would be good. So that's it. 10.5 tips on pellet fishing. Hopefully there's stuff there that you can enjoy. Like I say, I'm not affiliated to any bait company. I'm not sponsored anymore or anything like that. I just like to show you good products. And yes, I'm in the fortunate position, like if I ask them, they will send me some bait to use, which is brilliant. And thank you very much for that. But I only like to show you good products, and hopefully all these bits that I've shown you today are actually stuff that will help you fishing. I think those sticky method pellets from Sonu are fantastic. They make life so much easier. Again, having the option of those crushed pellets from Bait Tech and Blake's. I love all that. I love stuff like that. And then things like this, I love using this natural products like that, tiger nut extract. That's the stuff that I like. Trout pellets, that's the stuff that I like to be bringing into my fishing. No gimmicks, good quality products and good quality ingredients. So there you go. Sorry it's been so long since my last video, but we'll make up for that over the next few months. I've got a day's filming planned tomorrow, so I'll get out there and try and do 2 or 3 nice videos for you. Not feeling up to going on a match yet, but hopefully tomorrow will be the springboard for all that, of getting back on my feet. So yeah, so there we go. Loads of pellet tips there for you to try. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next video.